Good evening, everyone, to our regularly scheduled City Council meeting, and it is March 18th at 7 p.m., and we're going to start. I've been waiting years to do that. Tonight, we're not going to have a clergyman here, so we'll just have a moment of silence if we could. Okay, can we have a Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which stands one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Megan, can you do the roll call?
Of course. Jeff Arnold.
Here.
Mary Hasley. Here. Wendy Onuki. Here. Joe Reeser.
Here.
George Sleeper. Letitia Wilkins.
Here.
Annie Brown.
I'd like to know if someone could make a motion to excuse the mayor and George Sleeper tonight.
I make a motion to excuse the mayor and Annie Brown and Councilman George Sleeper.
Second.
Great. Can we also have a motion now to approve the agenda?
What, do we need to vote on the motion to excuse?
And can we vote on that? Those in favor?
They say yes.
Yes?
Yes.
Yes.
Those against? Okay. Agenda is approved.
Nope, that was to excuse.
That was just attendance. Yep.
Oh, that was for
Now we're
attendance.
to the
Sorry.
agenda.
Please excuse me. I'm going to learn this as I go along. Okay, now we're going to approve the agenda.
I'd make a motion to approve the agenda.
Okay.
I'll second.
Those in favor
I-
say aye.
I would move to amend the agenda
Do
to
you
add
wanna
a
move
new
agenda, to
item,
amend the agenda or the consent agenda?
the regular agenda.
No, item 5.
Go ahead.
I would move to amend agenda item 11 by adding agenda item 11A to read, the city council is requested to consider appointment of Heather Johnson as a coordinator to gather information from experts of what a draft plan would include for steps to reintroduce lifeguards to South Beach and North Beach in the city of South Haven, and to direct the city manager to include an agenda item at the second city council meeting in April for an agenda item for Ms. Johnson's information to share with the city council and staff.
Does anyone want to
I'll
have
second.
any comments on that?
I'm going to have to vote no on that. That's you're creating a position that we've not discussed, that the public's not been notified about. So I will not support that. I have no doubt that Heather probably would be good at that, but, no, without vetting, without city staff having a chance to examine it, I will not be able to support that.
It's merely for information gathering. It's not anything that would subject us to having to implement. And with lifeguards, I'm pretty sure being one of the top 5 priorities, even though we don't have the official vote, it's just something that would assist in discussions for this item, especially with budgets coming up. We would need to have some indication of what would be necessary for that, so that we can have a productive discussion on finances.
Mary, maybe you could reword it where it doesn't say position. Maybe it could be something like she's gathering information to turn into the city council for discussion, something to that effect. So it doesn't sound like we're creating a position.
I could amend it to read, the city council is requested to ask Heather Johnson to gather information from experts of what a draft plan would consider for steps to reintroduce lifeguards to South Beach and North Beach in the city of South Haven, and to direct the city manager to include an agenda item on the second city council meeting in April for discussion of Ms. Johnson's information.
I like that better.
Any other comments?
Is there a second to that
I'll second.
amendment?
Yeah. I just feel differently from Jeff. I feel like it's, from what we voted on, it's going to be a priority for the city council, and I want to have some information prepared for when we do discuss it, since the summer's coming up pretty soon. So I feel like this will be somewhat informal, but just get us some information that we need to make some decisions going forward.
I agree with you, Wendy.
Okay, I think everyone's commented but me, and I quite honestly support it. I think to gather information is worthwhile for the residents, and we've talked about lifeguards so much, and as Wendy said, it's in our priorities, so I can support that. So now my challenge is I'm going to try to repeat what Mary said.
I can repeat it and you can say, is that acceptable for me to? I believe the amended motion read to add agenda item 11A to read the city council is requested to consider asking Heather Johnson to gather information from experts of what a draft plan would include for steps to reintroduce lifeguards to South Beach and North Beach in the city of South Haven, and to direct the city manager to include an agenda item at the second city council meeting in April for discussion of the information Ms. Johnson gathers.
Okay, so that would be added as 11A, and
So we'll need to have an all in favor say yes, or
All
all in
in
favor
favor
say
say
no,
yes.
or all opposed say no.
and those disagree. So let's start with yeses first. Everybody say yes or no?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, those say no.
No.
Okay, the yeses win, so we'll make it 11A.
Right now, we have
But-
to have a motion on the amended agenda.
Right, so that was to support the amended motion.
Correct.
And now there's the motion
To
to
approve the
add it
agenda.
to the agenda.
Okay, so I'm asking to have a motion to add it to the agenda.
It's been moved, so we just need to vote.
Can we vote? Those in favor?
Say yes.
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 Those against?
No.
Okay, so the yeas win, so we will do so.
Yep. And now we need to vote to approve the agenda.
Now let's vote to approve the agenda. Thank you.
So all those
Vote.
in favor?
Those in favor of approving the agenda, please say yes.
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 Those against? No. The yeses win, so we will approve the agenda. Thank you. All right, the next section, number 6, is public comment for items on the agenda excluding items scheduled for public hearing. That means save your comments when we talk about the liquor license and the floating homes. Okay.
Hi. Heather Welsh Johnson, 931 South Haven Place. As the Director of South Haven Ambassadors Program and Education, I am compelled to share my personal story with you regarding the impact of drownings in our community. Countless times I've witnessed the heart-wrenching scenes of grief and despair, such as Elijah Britt's family screaming on North Beach and Corey Ernstern's mom weeping on the bench of South Beach, both having lost their children. These incidents have ignited within me a dedication to water safety. Because of these experiences, my own personal experience, I have immersed myself with water safety experts and knowledge. It has quickly become a dedication for me. Similarly to Jasmine Patterson's account, I too experienced a frightening incident with offshore winds. On the 3rd of July in 2019, my 3 daughters ventured onto a toucan float during an offshore wind day. We were celebrating the 4th of July weekend. I allowed them to play on the water with it. Within minutes, they drifted past the pier, struggling to paddle back to shore. As they battled against the winds, I observed the situation unfolding while conversing with my aunt, prepared to intervene if necessary. Fortunately, their strong swimming and paddling abilities, honed from years of growing up on Lake Michigan and countless tubing adventures, helped them navigate back to safety after popping the float's head with their nails while they were trying to stay on the float. However, had a lifeguard been present, they would have most certainly stopped me from letting them use that float in the water. That's the kind of proactive steps that a lifeguard would take, and that's why we are advocating so fiercely for it. I've taken a proactive steps because of these incidents by walking the beach to educate the public, inspiring fellow residents to join me, and encouraging other communities to follow suit. I do not like to boast, and my self-talk keeps me humble in a mental space. However, to plead to you all here today in hopes of accomplishing lifeguards this year, I will acknowledge them. My efforts have not gone unnoticed, as I've been honored at the by the National Drowning Prevention Alliance with the Community Lifesaver of the Year Award, while also being recognized by Moody on the Market Bold Women of Business Committee, receiving the Bold Women of Business Award for my work in water safety education. Furthermore, I am leading water safety education initiatives in the governor's office, advocating for statewide water safety education bill that will mandate water safety education in all schools in Michigan. I have facilitated a meeting between the CDC and the MDHHS to help them get more water safety education to folks in Michigan. I've been able to accomplish all of this along with handing out all of the brochures and doing all the events that we've done in the last year with SHAPE. And I've done it with the network that I have, the people that are behind me, the experts that guide me, because I wasn't an expert, and I don't claim to be now, but I have the experts behind me that do have that knowledge to be able to give that to me to help facilitate the city of South Haven in gaining this lifeguard program. So, you know, the three things that I think about that are coming up with this conversation is a professional expert consultant. I will have many of them behind me to be able to put a really great, robust plan together. The second thing is liability, and we can ask the city's attorneys about whatever liability there would be for me to create this program or what have you. You all would then be voting on it. It's not something that would be automatically implemented. And then equipment, purchasing equipment, radios I heard Kate talk about at the priority meeting. Our technology these days, we're in 2024. We don't have the old analog radios that we had previously. There are so many new things that we can do, and we can be the leaders in it. If we build the plan and we get it accepted, then we can be the top leader in this field. And we can influence all the different companies, towns, cities along the lake shore in order to do the same thing. So thank you for suggesting me to help you guys facilitate the lifeguard program, and I'll do my best to include everybody in that conversation and make sure that it is something that's viable for us to be able to sustain here in South Haven. Thank you.
Thank you for your help and comments.
Thank you.
Nancy Nat, 125 Elkinburg. Before I start, I want to thank Joe Reeser, Letitia Wilkins, Jeff Arnold, Wendy O'Nookie, and Mary Hosley for your support in selecting lifeguards as one of your priorities. This priority shows your commitment to develop the safest beach program in South Haven. So once again, I thank you. It is crucial that we recognize the hierarchy within our city government and the decision-making process that it entails. The city manager's ability to accomplish a task should not dictate the decision-making of our council. Instead, it is the council's role to collaboratively outline and direct the responsibilities of our city manager, working together for the betterment of South Haven. I quote from our city charter regarding duties of the city manager: to perform such duties as may be prescribed by this charter or may be required by ordinance or direction of the city council. When council members bring forth concerns of their constituents at meetings, it is important that the city manager, as an employee, respectfully listens, does not confuse facts, and does not cut people off before they are finished talking. In any professional setting, such disregard for authority would be addressed. My purpose here today is to implore you to initiate the process for the implementation of lifeguards starting now, at the end of the winter season and not in the middle of the summer. just as Ryan Kilpatrick will be here to present his recommendations for affordable housing on Overton. I don't know if he's here, but he was supposed to be here. I request that the council votes to allow Heather Johnson to facilitate by bringing in beach safety consultants and present a program for implementation of lifeguards on our beaches for 2024. Heather, with her very impressive background, will be able to network with the people she's in contact with and bring the water safety experts from around the state and country, and she's willing to do this at no cost. These experts will be able to check all the boxes and design an effective program. It makes no sense for City Council not to take her up on this very generous offer. The program, like we said, can be presented on April 15th at that City Council meeting. This will take the burden off our employees who, through their own admission, feel overwhelmed with projects. Allow us to prove that a safe, quality program can be designed in this time period. By initiating the process, we pave the way for a safer community and demonstrate our commitment to the well-being of our residents and visitors. In conclusion, I urge you to consider my plea seriously and to take decisive action tonight. Let's not continue to be known as a divided culture, a council that can't get things done, that continues to have the same priorities year after year without resolutions being made. Start with the priority that can be accomplished first and will actually save lives: lifeguards on our beaches. Allow us to help you. There is nothing more important than doing everything we can to protect the lives of those on our beaches. Thank you.
Thank you, Nancy. Anyone else?
Good evening. My name is Bob Pratt. I live at 6133 Oak Park Trail in Hazlet, Michigan. The following is a statement from Dr. Greg Field. Unfortunately, he's unable to attend tonight's meeting due to family issues, but he asked that I read it. So I'm quoting from his statement. City Council members of South Haven, several weeks ago, Kate Hosier reached out to me for guidance on the effectiveness of lifeguards and the potential establishment of lifeguard services on the city beaches. We had a great conversation, and she had many thoughtful questions on the issue. One line of questioning was focused on whether or not lifeguards were feasible for this upcoming summer season. I identified that it would be tough to recruit, train, and develop an agency structure, SOPs, policy, etc. by summer, and the importance of investigating enough time to make sure the lifeguards were properly trained to help keep both the community and the lifeguards safe. However, in that same conversation, I also identified that lifeguard agency startup and operations are not necessarily in my area of expertise, so I could not provide any reliable estimates on the overall timing of the process and get guards on South Haven beaches. Instead, I offered to reach out to my network and explore some of the answers to these questions. Kate then identified it would be great to have a consultant that was an expert in startup and operations to help the city. I offered to pursue this as well. In the coming days, I spoke with experts in the lifeguard arena from the West and East Coast and in between. I then reached out to experts in lifeguarding operations both nationally and internationally. After discovering more about training and finding one of the foremost leaders in lifeguard services to help consult the city, I sent Kate the following email with excitement. And I'm quoting from an email sent to Kate Hosier at 8 a.m., March 4th, 2024. Good morning, Kate. I hope you're doing well and had a great weekend. The weather definitely got a lot nicer since we last spoke. I'm glad Mary and Adam connected us. I've had a number of conversations with career ocean lifeguards at the end of last week regarding the requirements and timing of training lifeguards. It appears to properly train open water surf lifeguards, you would need about 2 weeks. This is very doable with a group of personnel that have the capabilities to take on this training by this summer. As we discussed, beyond the training, there are lots of other logistics that would need to be taken care of before having an effective lifeguard agency protecting South Haven communities, families, and visitors alike. To help with this effort, Rob Williams, a former chief of the Newport Beach, California Lifeguard Agency, a career lifeguard, has offered to explore consulting the city of South Haven on these efforts. Please let me know if you'd be interested in this. He's one of the best in the business and has helped launch other lifeguard agencies like the city of Carlsbad, California. That's all the updates for now. Let me know about any next steps. I'm happy to help with this important work. Take care, Greg. Again, I'm continuing to quote from Mr. Field's statements. In addition to the letters, I called Kate several times and left voicemails to share the updates. To date, and I talked to Greg on my way here, he has not received a response to any of them. Recently, I was sent a video recording of the recent priority settings meetings and the narrative. I was told to listen in on some conversations toward the end of the meeting, where I heard my name being cited in providing guidance to Kate that lifeguards were not a viable option for the city this summer. The above message proves otherwise. During my initial phone conversation with Kate, I recommended that even if the city cannot get lifeguards on the beach in June, South Haven should start the process of establishing an agency, budgeting, recruiting, and training for lifeguards now. This could allow lifeguards to be at the beach by mid to late summer. Further, I encourage you, the council, to consider that delaying these efforts now could mean that lifeguards are pushed out beyond the summer of 2025. Thank you. If the City of South Haven government is truly invested in the safety of its families and community, then placing lifeguards at your beautiful beaches as soon as possible should be the utmost priority. Each and every day, properly trained lifeguards are present at your beaches. Your families, community members, and visitors are more protected from the tragedy of drowning. Each day lifeguards are not present, the risk of drowning is enhanced greatly. I encourage you to find the strength within your council to decide to save lives and help protect your city by keeping them safe while in, on, and around the water. Thank you for your consideration, and God bless Dr. Greg Fields, PhD. I would also like to request that council add this into the minutes when you approve the minutes today, so that there's a record of exactly what he said and exactly what Kate said. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Dan Agnello, 964 Everett Parkway. I want to commend these people about the lifeguards. Cam, Nancy, and Heather, and a lot of other people have worked on this. And initially, I wasn't for it, but the more I look at it, the more I think we should have them. St. Joe has them. A lot of the other cities do have them. But I want to talk about Overton, right in my neighborhood. That's one of the subjects coming up about housing in Overton. And I saw the remarks in today's meeting, and I think we'll get a little ahead of ourselves. We're talking about getting a contractor, getting contractors, developers, and yada, yada, yada. But first, we need to make a scope. And the first thing on the scope is going to be Eagle. And you talked about in the remarks that we're going to talk to Eagle, see what they had to say, because the residents were pushing Eagle left and right, saying, this is not right, this is not right, this is not right. Because, first of all, they wanted to mitigate in steps. You can't mitigate that area in steps. It's too contaminated. We know there's TCE, trichloroethylene, in the northeast corner. There's TCE in Nancy's north field that they can't do anything about that's gated, okay? Who knows how long it's going to be there. But a detailed environmental report, environmental actions has to be taken before we even think about what we're going to put there. Because the residents want to get involved, and they want mitigation all at once. And second of all, as far as what goes in there, council, again, kind of skirted around density again, okay? We have to address density. They kept, you know, when Habitat was talking, oh, we had 155, and then we'll cut it down to 150 to make everybody happy or whatever. We can't have that many units in there. We need to have, like across from me, we're going to have duplexes. We need to have maybe duplexes on Indiana and Elkinburg. The next row behind it would be triplexes, quads, whatever, on both ways. So you don't have a density of three-story building on the corner of Elkinburg and Indiana. That's what they're originally proposing. We can have shorter buildings to start. As we move our way up, get toward the north field, then we can have maybe 2 20-unit apartments or whatever. And there's simple layouts. And we don't need to go to a consultant and say, hey, we got to spend tons of money, flywheel, to do this, this, and this. We've had so many different layouts from people that live there or in the area that have layouts that say, hey, let's get so many units here, so many single, 2, 3 bedroom units, so many apartments, get those settled across the street from you guys, and then come up with, where's your playgrounds? Put in a clubhouse, okay? put in whatever other amenities you need, picnic areas, whatever it is. It can be done very easily. We don't think this thing complicated. And the city must reach out to citizens. There's too many things on the plate for the past 4 or 5 years that do not get done. I indicated to you on the priorities. If you set a priority, you're going to build a house, first you say, who's going to do it? When is it going to be done? And what are we going to do? But the city sets priorities. I haven't seen that for 4 years. We had number one priority last year was STRs. Nothing got done. I told you that. We're going to have 4 cycles, We're going to have 4 cycles of STR registrations and no reform. And it happened. Now, since you guys made a moratorium, oh, that's great. It stopped the 27 business STRs from being able to get in the lottery. But everybody in the lottery is going to get a personal STR. So it doesn't matter. I told you there's 3 houses by my house, by me, that all got business STRs. They're PUDs, so they're not subject to the time frame. And before they sell their houses, they get the golden fleece from the realtors to be able to sell their house. They have 3 business STRs. A brand new listing, we just went up on Clinton yesterday. The first thing they said in the description is, we have a personal STR registration, so you should buy our house. They don't say, this would be a great house to grow in or live with a family or to work or whatever, or to retire. No, the first thing they say is, this would be a great short-time rental, okay? We can't have this attitude. And it's being pushed by, you know who it's being pushed by in the city. I'm not going to go into that. But we've got to put a moratorium on personal STRs. They're already renting, STRs, business ones. They're already renting personal ones. And you know the personal ones are not going to be rented just for 28 days and 6 segments. It's not going to happen because they know they can't get caught. It's happened in my condo association. It happens all over the place because of failure of enforcement. So you need to jump right on personal STRs as fast as you can. Talk to the lawyer, get with the citizens, whatever it takes. That has to be stopped because the moratorium is not doing any good for the city.
Time.
Thank you.
Joe Wilkins, 811 Indiana Street. 2 quick comments. I don't know if Mary can answer. Your amendment of the agenda to add that item, was that amendment for expectations that you might have lifeguards this summer? And believe me,
It's purely to get information.
just for information. The expectation is not to have put in place this.
Joe, you're jumping one step. So first we have to have an open dialogue, and that's, I think, part of the frustration.
I'm just looking for some type of
I'm going to try to answer
transparency.
your question. We're going to try to discuss this and have it on the agenda so we can air out
Yeah.
all the issues
Yeah.
and then try to move forward as quick as possible. So we're taking one step. So to answer your question, I think, is that the first step that Mary's asking for is an open discussion about it, a meeting to have, and then we can take steps.
All right. I am just trying to follow this whole process. I'm certainly in support of saving lives, so that's no big issue for me. I'm just trying to follow the process and trying to have some form of transparency. I just wanted to know, is the expectation from that research is to perhaps put that in place this summer?
I don't know what the information all will be, so I'm unable to answer a question.
All right. The second part. I typically agree with Dan on a lot of stuff, but this issue with the red flags on Overton that we keep on hearing over and over again about Overton this, Overton that. Mary was concerned about the contamination. She gave me the list of the contaminations that's on that site. It was a couple, I think Wendy, Councilperson Wendy, and myself, and I think it was one other person, that we went to visit the site and the project in Kalamazoo. So I took that information that Councilperson Hosley gave me, And I had a long discussion with the project manager, the person that was responsible getting that project done in Kalamazoo. Gave them the information on the contaminations that's on our site. Those same contaminations was on the site in Kalamazoo. Eagle will make sure that our project would not advance without having that stuff cleaned up. So this stuff about contamination, this contamination, that, we have the same contamination that was on the site in Kalamazoo. So we should be able to put that to bed. Eagle should be able to put that to bed. So as far as density, well, we're seeing density all over this city with different stuff. STRs, Trailside is not that far from being violating in density. They're stacking homes over there on top of each other. They had the same issue with some contamination. Nobody stopped Trailside. So I am advocating to stop putting these roadblocks on getting homes put on Overton. We should get past the contamination talk. We know Eagle is going to take care of that. We should be able to get past the density. We know we're not going to stuff. It was a flawed project in the beginning. They Habitat tried to bring in and add a lot of homes to try to get the grant money. Everybody know why density went up. We are not, I don't think we're going to make that same mistake of trying to put 100-something units in there or whatever. So I'm just sick of hearing all these what-ifs and flags and, hot topic points being brought before you guys to slow this process down in Overton. What I've noticed is this city can come together, lifeguards, which they should, other projects, other things that the city, people within the city wants. You're going to hear something on tonight about license for alcohol and all that stuff. We tend to be able to get behind one another and make stuff happen. But when it comes to stuff that affects the south side of Ward 1, particularly people of color, we drag our feet. And so I've been coming to these
Time.
meetings for Mr. Reeser talk about a minute of mine. Can I recover?
Thumbs up. But let me, Bishop Wilkins, before you leave, some of your concerns, Dan brought up the same ones, and I think have been voiced by many residents. So I want to just address a couple, because I don't like to see you stand up there and then sit down and then feel like we're not listening. So let me address them. First, the contamination. I agree. It shouldn't be a roadblock. Other cities have done it. So Kate has already gotten a hold of Eagle. I spoke to her a couple hours ago, and we're going to try, Kate, if I have this right, we're going to try to have them come to a meeting so residents can ask questions right to Eagle, and so people feel more reassured. We do not want people living where there's a contaminated site, but we do believe something can be done about it. That's why we're going to have Eagle. Do I have that right, Kate?
City staff have been working on setting up a joint meeting with Eagle to come here and talk about redevelopment of brownfield sites and what that looks like specifically with the Overton site.
Okay, so that should address that. Secondly, I know there's a lot of concerns about the city council coming together and making things happen. So I want to reassure you, I'm sitting up here with 5 of us, 2 of us aren't here, and I know they feel this way. We're going to move faster. We're only less than 3 months into this year, but we've passed some things. We're going to pass a lot more, Bishop Wilkins, and you will see some changes and some things being passed very quickly, including affordable housing and other types of housing, and including the Overton site, and including resolution once and for all for the people in this town. Short-term rentals will be addressed, and it's all coming up quickly. So I just want you to know we are all committed to moving the process along faster. Thanks.
Hello, Thomas Capps. I live in Coloma, but I work in South Haven. I've been to a meeting here a time or two, former school employee, lifeguard for over 12 years. and I coached the boys swim team for at least 8 years and coached the Rams Aquatic Club previously to that, so over 15 years of coaching kids. One of the topics we hear a lot is lifeguards. And starting with that, I wrote a letter that I did send to you. I got some replies. I'm not the best at emails, but I did send that to you, but I thought I'd also bring it here. One of the things that we hear a lot is that it would be hard to hire the lifeguard positions. To that aspect, I would completely disagree. There are strong swimmers who would make great candidates for this position and have the complete ability to master a lifeguard program, either being in or out of high school, and many that come back from college that would also be able to apply their skills to a safer beach for our community. There are also many swimmers in the community varying in ages that also have the ability to be guards too, so I think that should be a thought. On the topic that those that don't think it's a good idea to put this level of responsibility on a teenager or a young adult, the risk of a rescue swimmer doesn't go without that thought. However, the skills and the techniques taught would make for safe rescues. Plus, if we had a swimmer that came from a competitive swim team going 25 seconds in a 50-yard sprint, that'd be who I'd want to save me. The other concern is that for some people that don't have the idea of how a lifeguard program would work, or those, and many say that the people won't respect the guards, which I see a lot on the community chat line and other places as well. I don't think that this would be necessarily a common issue, as there's a likelihood that there may be difficult patrons. But with that being said, your guards are going to have the skills and the communication skills to be able to handle that type of situation. In the event that there's something where you have a total disregard for the lifeguards, the police would be called, just like in any other situation. I used reference to a basketball game. Somebody gets loud, the ref kicks them out. That doesn't work. We have the police step in. Same situation would happen at the beach. While this has been a topic, it seems to continue to get pushed aside. I don't see it because the board wouldn't have an understanding. I would think with the amount of time that has been presented, researchable information, and the professionals that have donated their time to the cause to put into the cause. I don't foresee it being a money problem. We seem to find funds for other projects that could run a guard program for years, ranging from hundreds of thousands to millions plus, playgrounds, splash pads, the ice rink, etc. Money has potential to come from multiple resources, fundraisers, grants, donations, and taxes, and sponsors, etc., which I think with the amendment that we had added in seems like it's going in the right direction. The other concern is with Shays and Dives Rescue Team. This is who we call now when a swimmer is in distress, missing, or drowning. And by no means am I bashing Shays, and I hope it doesn't come across that way, but most of the time they cannot reach a person to save them from drowning. It takes too little time for a person to die, and it takes them way too long to get there. They are fast, but they don't have enough time for the response to be able to save somebody that would be drowning in the water. And this situation has happened in South Haven multiple times. When a patron goes in, I guess I skipped part of that, but the only hope they're going to have is the patrons that are at the beach if something were to happen. So with that being said, the people would be going in that are not trained, thus causing risk for another situation to happen with more victims. And when we come into that, then my question would be, how much money do we spend when we should send Shays on a rescue or recovery mission using people, dispatch, multiple boats, drones, multiple fire trucks, multiple ambulances, police officers, etc., and then when those resources can't find the body, they call the Coast Guard, the boats, the drones, the helicopters, and so on. So how much more are we creating by not having a good lifeguard program? On top of that, while those resources are aiding in the rescue and recovery, the town itself is then hindered for other situations that are happening simultaneously as that is. Then needing to call in on-call employees, asking for help from neighboring departments, etc. Then hindering those towns on top of that. So how wide does that go? Other than that, I appreciate your time. I look forward to the next meeting, and thank you.
Thank you.
Lisa Beck, 879 Monroe Boulevard. I always think I'm going to come up here with notes, and I can't seem to read them and talk at the same time. Two things. One is lifeguards. I don't have any new information that you haven't heard from the rest of these very well-educated people, but I really urge you to look at the information carefully and to get lifeguards as soon as possible. I agree with some of the things about, we can find money for a lot of different things. I'm sure we can find it to save lives. I feel that we also need to move quickly on it, as quick as possible once we have the information. But we have great opportunity here with experts to do things that obviously city staff and others haven't had time to do. And it's a great opportunity that we shouldn't just throw away. It's my opinion. On Overton, you guys have heard me already many times. I agree with Joe as far as the contamination. As long as we bring Eagle in, I think that's a great idea with Kate and Joe. I think that we have to do the contamination all at one time, but we have seen it done. My brother lives in Kalamazoo, and we took a bike ride, and he pointed out several ones that have been done. I think this time, though, we also have to not put the cart before the horse in terms of choosing a developer and getting a plan all set up without listening to the residents and getting a really good idea of what people want. I think some of the Mr. Kilpatrick's presentation that he did, I don't know if you remember, but there was a really good-looking one that was, it had like duplexes that were together, but they were 1 and 2 story, but there were 4 apartments in them, and they looked kind of like trailside. I think there's a lot of opportunity. Some of the things that he showed, I think the population he had was a little different, and I think we want to stick with the working affordable housing idea versus tall apartment buildings and all. But I think it definitely can be done. But he also mentioned like 1,200 square feet, and I don't know if you guys get the real estate emails or whatever, but Redfin today had a place on Brockway, and it's 982 square feet. And to me, it looked huge. And I remember years ago looking at that building, and we decided at that time it was too much money, but it was too big for us. So, small houses for 1 and 2 people families, or even, I had a 900 square foot home here in Indiana, and I have my family of 5 come over all the time, so we can get more on there. And I know there's density issues, I get that, but we could really have something that looked nice and be affordable and really push it through the right way, and we'll save money. It's rather than getting a developer and then having everybody trash the idea like last time. If we do the right steps, I think we could make it happen. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. Mike Campbell, 216 Erie Street. I want to talk about Overton, item 11. Everyone, I think, can agree that it's the desire of the community to have Overton developed yesterday rather than tomorrow. I simply want to make 4 comments about the process by which you could do this and hopefully do it faster than what may have been done in the past. First of all, given that we've had one go at Overton that didn't work out so well, I would be curious if the city has done any kind of review of what went well, what didn't go well, and come up with lessons learned so that those lessons can be applied to this next go-around. If they haven't, I would suggest a short exercise would be useful to do that. Secondly, the consultant during the workshop in its last minutes was conversing with one of the council members who talked about the fact that the council members are not necessarily well-versed in all the options that are available. And the consultant said, gee, then what I can do is I can provide you a report that has 3 options that you might follow. And for each one of those options, I can tell you, what I would estimate the time would be to get them done, the amount of incentives that you would need to have, and then the third thing being the difficulty with which you would it would be to accomplish that particular option with those facts. I read the report. I saw some recommendations. I didn't see the three options and the analysis given out. I may have been mistaken. It may be a different report that he is going to prepare, but I think that that would be very useful to have. And I know time has passed from February 26th till now, so there may be further discussions, at which point those options were chosen not to be included, but I think those are important to have. Third, I think, too, it is important to include the public in the conversation, if nothing else, to help with the work. I know the staff is busy, and I think that the staff could be helped by the community, and I think this particular project, because it has community-wide support, would be one of those ways to actually bring the community back together from the state that it currently is in, which is sort of divided. And the fourth point is really to help you think about tonight as you decide the two options that staff has presented to you about whether to go ahead and authorize staff to do an RFP draft in order to bring back to you to then go out to proposed developers, or whether to not do that but give them advice. There are several decisions that I think came out of the discussion in the workshop that still haven't been made. And I think those are decisions that really the council needs to think through before they actually have staff go out and prepare an RFP. First of all, there was a decision around if you want to do brownfield work, how do you want to do it? Do you want to do it yourself as the city, or do you want to do it through the partner? That's really helpful to know, because then you know you can then narrow your pool of RFP receivers to the people that you think are going to be able to help you with that if you choose them as a developer. Second, the consultant said you need to have unity around those 5 pieces of information that you were surveyed on at the meeting itself. You have the results of the survey, but you haven't had a discussion about those, and I think that will take some time for all of you to agree as well.
1 minute.
Thank you. Third, you have to talk through the housing that you believe is appropriate. There was some top-level discussion of that, but if any of that housing that you want isn't part of the master plan or isn't currently zoned, you have to take that into account as well. So I think having that discussion will be very useful too in the process. And fourth, another one is the developer that you want. Is it a for-profit or a not-for-profit, like a land trust, that you want to do the work for you? Again, it affects the pool of potential developers that you send the RFP to. If you think through all of these items and discuss them and provide the input to Kate, it's going to help her be much more specific in the RFP, and I think in the end, you're going to have much better success finding the right developer to work with you to get this done. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Any other comments?
Hi. I'm Elaine Herbert, 404 North Shore Drive. Regarding City Council priorities for 2024, I propose simply that people should be the priorities, the safety, health, welfare of people, neighborhoods, community, residents, visitors, pretty simple. Not just making money. On STRs, actually, 3 priorities, if you were to ask me. STRs in residential neighborhoods, lifeguards on our beaches, and city management improvement regarding residents. On STRs, let's face it, the reality is that no family wants to buy a home in our existing neighborhoods full of STR hotels. Nobody wants to buy a house like that. There are already close to 1,000 homes, apartments, condos, cottages, bungalows, houses in our residential neighborhoods that families and local workers and residents lived in until 2015. That's just 9 years converted to commercial summer rental hotels, now owned mostly by invisible out-of-state investors. Those living units used to be workforce and family homes. This council can now make those 1,000 living units available to workforce and family housing again. like that. Reverse course. You can legislate it. They're doing it everywhere. Make residential neighborhoods residential again. Zone it. Yes, you can, given the will and the leadership and the courage. Change this and you prioritize residents, community, safety, economy, stability. Zone commercial, hotel, rental, commercial again. Zone residential neighborhoods, family residential again. It's not enough to say change the SDR ordinance. Make it restore residential neighborhoods. Number 2, lifeguards save lives. You've heard a lot about that tonight. It is the responsibility of the government of a city on the water to provide effective services to prevent and assist in water accidents. Our residents and our guests are not protected, and we are the deadliest beach in the Great Lakes. Depending on other local swimmers to save drowning people isn't the answer. Body retrieval is not enough. We, the residents, insist on lifeguards. Let's get it done. Number 3, city management. Yes, running the city better is a priority, should be a priority. We lost how many key employees this year? One example just from your priority meeting, the facilitator urging actionable priorities offered staff a basic planning calendar. Every corporate person has seen it for priorities that plugs a staff member's name in with dates for completing tasks. Accountability, good idea. It prompted pushback from staff and the usual, oh, we're doing a lot of things with just so many people, so I don't know if we can do that. Now that is a weakness. That's a weakness. And the city's a big business. Who tells their boss that? I don't think we can do that, boss. Staff needs to be accountable to make this work, and you need to make that a priority to make the city work better. The tail wags the dog here. The city manager tells you what to do and what not to do. Witness tonight, just as an example, did residents or the city council ask for nearly 60 rental houseboats now to be possible if the city council passes this new ordinance tonight? Did anybody ask for that? Yet here we are with that, fully out of the blue. Residents beg for years for SDR control in our neighborhoods and lifeguards, and we get squat, but rental houseboats now in 29 marinas in our city. Rental houseboats. What the what? Residents. Residents should be the number 1 priority. Voting constituency.
1 minute.
Restoring residential neighborhoods should be the number 1 priority by protecting families again and our quality of life in our residential neighborhoods. That's going to bring in workforce, lawyers, doctors, nurses, teachers, cops, plant workers into our neighborhoods, and that should be your number 1 priority. Lifeguards, saving our lives and the lives of tourists at our beaches, that should be your number 2 priority. And number 3, staff, respecting residents, answering our emails, enforcing the ordinances, and respecting the leadership of city council. Neighborhoods, voting residents, lifeguards, and accountability of city management. Thank you for your service.
Thank you. Any other comments? Okay. Then we're going to go to the consent agenda. And do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I move to approve consent agenda items A through H.
Second?
Okay, then it's been approved.
Roll call.
Roll
No,
call.
we'll need a roll call.
Yep.
Arnold,
Yes.
Hasley,
Yes.
Onuki,
Yes.
Wilkins,
Yes.
Reeser.
Yes. Okay, now old business. The city council will be asked to take the following action regarding an application for a redevelopment liquor license from the Kitchen Tribe LLC. So let's have a host of a hearing and a public hearing. Do we have a motion for a public hearing?
I make a motion
And
to
I know
open,
we're going to,
I make a motion to open the public hearing.
Second.
and we are going to have Trevor speak first because he has prepared some information and it's his business, so we thought we'd let him speak first.
Trevor, just before you do, you need to call for the vote on the public hearing.
Okay, can we have a vote on the public hearings?
All in favor?
Those say yes?
No.
Yes.
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 Noes? Okay.
Now we're
it's
open.
passed. All right, Trevor, sorry.
Sorry. All right, Trevor Brooks, 559 Phoenix, and I am the owner of Kitchen Tribes. I thought I'd give you a couple of minutes, tell you what's going on there, why I want this, all this kind of things. I came to South Haven 2 years ago. Been coming up longer before then. Saw the for sale sign on the Dairy Queen for, I don't know, long time, 5 years, 6 years. And I inquired, and it turned out that they were going to shut the place down and board it up. And I thought, ooh, that wouldn't be very cool at the entrance of the city. So I'll take one for the team and jump into the restaurant business. I am not a restaurateur. I know nothing about that business. However, I'm a big believer in hiring the right people. You get some stuff done, and I do have a passion for entrepreneurialism. And one of the things I thought that this town could use ultimately was food diversity. You know, all of the menus kind of sort of more or less look the same, so I thought, hey, this is an opportunity. Plus, I saw the so-called parking lot as an opportunity to develop as well. So if we just go to image one. So I just wanted to share with you a couple of the menus that we have. We're trying all kinds of things, bringing all kinds of different diversity. We have an entire Mediterranean menu that's got Greek food, which is actually the most popular food we sell. We do European menus. We have pierogies, and we do Pacific menus. We have Hawaiian food. I just added a spam musabi to the menu. It's actually really good if you're into fried spam. Number two, of course, you have to have the regular expected menu. So we do the burgers, we do the strips and wings, and the sandwiches, all kind of stuff. And then the third one, one of the things that we noticed from a diversity perspective is the lack of the vegetarian options. So each of our other previous menus have vegetarian options, but we wanted to kind of take it a step further and add acai bowls and wraps, and my wife's got this green goddess salad dressing that she's used to create a following, that kind of stuff. It's all been fun. Interestingly enough, the biggest request that we found last year was alcohol. Can I have a drink when I'm eating my balance bowl? Can I have a drink? And then I started to think for a second, and I realized every single one of my competitors has a liquor license, so maybe that must be a thing here. I don't drink myself, but if that's what people want, and then out of the blue, I'm a big believer in karma and those kinds of things. And out of the blue, I'm having a conversation with Mayor Scott, and he's like, "Oh, did you know that we have this obscure redevelopment license for liquor licenses?" And I was like, "What? I didn't even know that existed." Looked it up and like, wow, that is kind of cool. So that's why I'm here today. Go to the next one. We're not really interested in. You can skip those.
Okay.
The
Skip
next
that.
one. Yeah.
Okay.
We're not really interested in being a bar. I'm not going to sell, a Ryan Coke, that kind of stuff. What I'm interested in, though, is, you can go to the next one, yeah. That's going to be my bar, by the way, is the fun drinks, the adult slushies.
1 minute.
Frozen wines, those kinds of things. And that's kind of where I'm going with this whole idea. I'm not looking for people to sit around all day and drink. I'm not even sure I'm going to offer beer, although I've talked to Tom Fee, maybe I might have to do that. But anyway, it's another aspect of adding the fun and diversity and something different to the city. So that's the purpose. Yeah, I just put the last one in there because I thought that was kind of. Oh, yeah, these are just different examples of the types of drinks. Put the little fruits thing on there, and then I thought that this is fun. But anyway, I digress. Thank you. Do I need to sit here?
If you have any other things, you can talk with them. You're the applicant, so
Yeah.
the 5 minutes really doesn't apply to you.
No, I'm good. If you guys have any questions, just let me know.
Any other comments from any of the residents? Anyone?
Dan Agnello, 964 Everett Parkway. First of all, I was getting a little thirsty, Trevor, so. I had a strawberry shake, and I got a hot fudge shake for my wife today, but didn't have any Kahlua or anything in it, but that would have been nice too. But I am all in favor of what Trevor wants to do. He's got a fantastic place. He just had renovations. I've never talked to anybody that's had a bad meal there. I mean, he's got everything covered. I don't think there's any menu that he doesn't have covered as far as types of food. And that's one of the things that really helps out there in diversity. And he's really developed that corner. And I love the truck. If that truck ends up being a bar, I'll help you serve drinks, whatever. But I'm in favor of what Trevor's doing. I think it would help that corner. And I hope you guys consider approving that. Thank you.
Thanks. Any other comments? Then I'd like to have a motion to close the public comments.
Make a motion to close the public hearing.
Support.
All in favor?
All in favor, vote yes.
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 Noes? The yeses have it. Thank you. All right, Part B of this is we'll consider a motion to approve Resolution 2024-12, a resolution recommending that the Michigan Liquor Control Commission grant a new public on-premise redevelopment liquor license to Kitchen Tribes LLC for the business located at 555 Phoenix. Kate, did you have any comments?
No, I don't have any comments, but I know that Griffin's been working a lot on this, so if there's anything that we'd like to kind of run through by way of introduction, or is there anything that council may have questions on, we're here to present or talk about those.
This redevelopment liquor license, this is similar to like the OK Tire, and that's now the Social House. I think that was a redevelopment. Yeah.
It was, I should remember, is it Los Ranchos across the street was also a redevelopment liquor license. I believe there were a few more in town more originally, but I'm not remembering them off the top of my head. Those are the last two that I can recall. And I think probably what's most important is just a reminder for the city council this evening is that, so Kitchen Tribes LLC seeking local government approval to apply for a redevelopment liquor license. The MLCC really won't even consider an application without a recommendation from the local unit. So several years ago, the city of South Haven established a policy which really outlines some criteria for you all to consider when considering whether or not to recommend this request to the MLCC. But I don't want you all or people in the public or in the audience to miss that the MLCC has a significant list of other criteria and check boxes that they'll work through to make sure the establishment can be granted a license. I did include the requirement document in the packet just in case you all want to look through that more. But really, those are items that will get worked through with the MLCC. This is just the first step for Mr. Brooks to be able to ultimately submit his application for consideration to the state.
Okay, should we take a vote?
Well, I think we need a motion first.
Yep.
We'll make a motion
So-
to vote.
No, so I would move to approve Resolution 2024-12, a resolution recommending that the Michigan Liquor License grant a new public on-premises redevelopment liquor license to Kitchen Tribes LLC for the business located at 555 Phoenix Street.
Second?
Now, would we like to vote on it?
Yes.
Okay. Those saying yes?
Yes.
Yes.
Noes? Okay, the motion passes. Thank you, Trevor, for doing this. Okay, point number 9. The City Council will be asked to take the following actions to regulate floating homes, houseboats, and floating commercial structures. So first thing we'll do, I'll have a public hearing. Do we have a motion to open this to a public hearing?
I would move to open the public hearing on the action on regulating floating homes, houseboats, and floating commercial structures.
Second?
A vote? Those saying yes?
Yes.
Yes.
Those? And it passes. Okay. So any public comments?
Yes, my name is Todd Heinrich. I'm at 357 Moore Court in South Haven. Like a couple of careers ago, I was a member of the Michigan Marine Manufacturers Association. We managed and developed marinas. One of the surprising things that I learned early on was that there was a plane we hired to fly around on the 4th of July and on Labor Day weekends, the two of the busiest days in the boating season. And one of the things that we looked at was, because the municipalities were saying you got to have 1 or 2 parking spots for every boat. And we've learned, and this study has been repeated in other states, that we only need 1 parking spot for every 2 boats. That is, you only need a half a parking spot for every boat. Because people buy boats with the dream of using them a lot, and they really don't. A lot of boats just sit there week after week, and marina owners will tell you that. There just aren't that many parking spots needed. When you look at this, when you look at allowing permits for these, you might want to consider that parking, if it's done with using the guidelines, the parking in existing marinas is followed the existing guidelines. There's very little parking there. So if you're going to start renting those out and increasing the density and the use of them, I would look carefully at the existing parking, and maybe start out with, don't start out with 200 or 100 permits. Start out slow. Start out with 20 or 40 permits, something like that. See how it works. See how the parking works in the marinas. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Todd. Any other comments? Okay. We have a motion to close the open hearing.
I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
Take a vote. Yeses?
Yes.
Yes.
Noes? Okay, it passes. Okay, Part B then. Consider a motion to improve an ordinance to amend sections 201.6, 201.8, 201.13, 201.19, and 901 of the South Haven zoning ordinance to define certain terms relating to waterfront development and to regulate floating homes and floating commercial structures. So Kate, did you want to say something first?
I don't really have much to say. I know that Griffin has worked a lot on this. I know that we've had an opportunity to talk with many of you on that. I know that I was able to meet with another council member this last week and go over any concerns. So I guess at this point, we're happy to run through it one more time, or if there's any questions that council may have.
Any questions? Okay, then can we get a motion to vote?
I'll move to approve an ordinance to amend sections 201.6, 201-8, 201.13, 201.19, and 901 of the South Haven zoning ordinance to define certain terms relating to waterfront development and regulating floating homes and floating commercial structures. And consider a motion to approve an ordinance to amend Chapter 38 of the South Haven Code of Ordinances to create a new Article 5 entitled Floating Homes to provide for the licensing of floating homes within marinas.
Can we take a vote?
Need a second.
Yep.
Those
Is there a
saying
second?
yes?
We don't have a second yet. Maybe it's not.
I'll second.
Okay.
And
We
I
go for
would,
discussion.
yeah, I would just like to make a couple comments because the first one only considered B, but I thank you, Councilman Arnold, for adding both of them to minimize the votes. I would just like to thank staff for meeting with me last week. I have had concerns, and the discussion was very helpful. Many of my concerns are in the Code of Ordinance, which could come back to City Council if there are issues that were not anticipated and identified subsequently. I do really appreciate the discussions that we've had and helping understand that the enforcement, the way it is set up is that the fee currently is not put towards the STR reporting system, and I would encourage that as fees come forward for this process, that includes supporting the 24-hour reporting service, so that could be set up for that purpose. And that with regard to environmental water source contamination, I was very relieved to hear that whenever the city gets issues, hears of issues of environmental, especially near the water, they investigate and they enlist the assistance of the DNR when warranted, where the DNR have much stronger, deeper teeth to address violations if they do occur. And that I appreciate all the extra help to let us know that there are ways to address issues, especially with parking. We all know parking is tight, and that I do believe that attention will be focused to ensure that the land bridge to homes on River Island Drive will be monitored to ensure that there's sufficient passage if emergency vehicles have to get there, and we can we can address issues as they arise. So, thank you.
Any other council comments?
My comment would be that someone expressed a concern about adding potentially 60 new short-term rentals into the mix. It's just 2 per marina, and marinas have their own rules, often functioning like a condominium association, that just because they can doesn't mean they will. As Mr. Heinrich said, a lot of the people use these as their weekend cottage, and they don't want to have it, won't want to have some crazy house next door. So I don't anticipate a lot of the marinas taking advantage of it, maybe the one that already has. So I'm comfortable that this will police itself.
Any other comments? Okay, are we prepared then to take a vote? Those supporting, say yes?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes? Noes? Then it passes. Okay. Point number 10. City Council will be asked to consider the approval of the following special events. Event applications. Special event 2024-14 Ferry 5K to be held on Saturday, June 29th, 2024, from 7 a.m. to 12 p.m., starting at Kids Corner on St. Joseph Street to South Haven Street to the Van Buren Trail. And the second one is a special event 2024-15 National Day of Prayer to be held Thursday, May the 2nd, 2024, from 12 noon to 1 p.m. on the front lawn of City Hall. And Kate or Griffin, would you like to make a comment?
So, Council, these are 2 special events that are returning to us. We have the Furry 5K, that is an event that starts at Kids Corner and then kind of works its way over to the Van Buren Trail and then comes back that way. And it is in correlation with the Alvan Humane Society. So that would be held on Saturday, June 29th. They are putting in some setup time, but ultimately they believe it'll probably be done by noon. The second event would be the National Day of Prayer, which is, again, a returning event that would be held out here in front of the front lawn of City Hall from noon to 1 p.m. on Thursday, May 2nd.
Okay, good.
Any other comments? Okay, so
I would move to approve special event 2024-14 Furry 5K to be held on Saturday, June 29th, 2024, from 7 a.m. until 12 p.m., starting at Kids Corner Park on St. Joseph Street to South Haven Street to the Van Buren Trail. And special event 2024-15 National Day of Prayer to be held Thursday, May 2nd, 2024, from 12 noon to 1 p.m. on the front lawn of City Hall.
Second?
So are we ready to take a vote? Those in favor say yes? Next, point 11, City Council will be asked to consider recommendations for the redevelopment of the Overton site and determine next steps for redevelopment. So do we have a motion?
Go ahead if you have it.
I would say presentation first, so we know what
Okay.
we might.
Would you like to make comments? Kate,
Sure,
or
so we have,
Griffin?
in the agenda packet, we have the city staff report, but we also have the summary memo from Ryan Kilpatrick. There's been a number of things that were kind of discussed at that meeting, and this is kind of Ryan's kind of encapsulation of some points put together for the city council if they'd like to proceed with, if he's nailed them, if he's got them right, then council could proceed with directing staff to draft an RFP/RFQ, or request for proposals/request for qualifications, which would ultimately come back to the city council for approval, make sure we got this all right, and then it would go on and be published. So this is just kind of the first step to get staff moving if this memo kind of encapsulates where council wanted to go. So this is based on our workshop on February 26th, where we went through kind of an informal polling on what council would like to see out there. We're happy to kind of walk through what the memo kind of comes up with, but also, it's also a good discussion point with council. Is this hitting where council wants to go with the Overton site? So happy to kind of walk through that memorandum, or if there's council questions so far.
Would council members feel comfortable us going through some of the big issues that we think need to be addressed? And maybe we could have notes taken on that. I know on your memo, but I don't think the residents can see it, 3.04.24, it lists some of the council survey issues that we discussed. But I think maybe we can publicly speak about the issues that we think are important and then vote on this. Make a motion.
Okay.
And the pro tem is referring to page 130 in the packet.
Okay, so this is our chance to talk in front of the public about what issues we think should be included or not included in Overton. Anybody want to start? I'll be glad to, if not.
We can just work our way around. So I was listening to residents, and also I had some similar thoughts. And, I mean, one thing, like in the letter, is that, you know, it's not clear what kind of housing we want. And I think it would be helpful to hear from residents, especially in that area. I was pleased to see that the target was the 80 to 120% AMI, but it's not clear, do we want all of it to be that? Do we want some market rate? What combination do we want? And that's where I was a bit frustrated with some of the questions, the polling, especially the polling on the shareability of, the share of affordability. And that also in that bullet point in the memo talked about income restricted, and it's not clear what that means. So I have more questions that I think if we have a little more focus on exactly where we're going, it will more efficiently use staff time to get to an RFP that the community would be able to embrace. I also, heard Mr. Campbell's comments in reviewing the video myself around the 2-hour mark. And Mr. Kilpatrick had stated, based on what he heard tonight, when he saw the actual responses, he'll take the feedback. With that feedback, he would be making 3 options, and he would try to give an estimated time frame, an estimated amount of subsidy, and an estimated level of difficulty for approval, because each type of funding application has its own quirks and complications. And I didn't really see that level of detail in this. And more importantly, one of the questions, I had asked is, one of his slides had the family distribution or population distribution, and it was for individuals. And that amounted to over 24,000 persons. And we're a community of under 4,000, and even if we incorporate the township, that's just another 4,000, so we're looking at 8,000. And that slide had 6,500 single families, 9,100 two adults, and almost 8,900 adults with children. I would really like to have a better understanding of what family size, and a family size can be one, we are looking for. And we're also looking at workforce housing, so I had inquired about getting some documentation from local job listings of what are those jobs paying and what are the qualifications, so that we would have a better understanding of what are our struggles right now. Who is being asked to move here to work, and what will they be making? So what household price do we need to have so that they could live here? And as part of, and maybe this would roll into the CIP discussions that we'll be starting, but just our infrastructure to handle the additional construction. And what I would really like to know is if Flywheel has done any RFPs for the 80 to 120% AMI market area. And there was mention of Michigan Economic Development Corporation, MEDC, also being able to help. Is that in combination with what Flywheel would do? Is it independent of Flywheel? It wasn't clear from the memo what they can provide and how that, whether it's independent or not. Towards the environmental, it would really help. I know it was my understanding Kate might have reached out to the person in Kalamazoo, and it would be very helpful to know what kind of information did that person have, because in construction, because that, I think, was one of the biggest hurdles that we had in the first go-round, is that the environmental information came after, the readout came after, unfortunately, the application was filed, so they couldn't include it in the application. And it would be very beneficial for us to know exactly what amount of information Eagle would have, and that's great that Kate's looking at having a meeting with Eagle. We could get that clarification, because I know that the data that was finalized in October of last year had a lot of information in there, but I know the rejection letter from the previous application to MISTA said analysis at shallow and deep, and were the few deep analyses done, would that be sufficient? And I think with how much Eagle works with MISTA, they would be able to help us understand what would be pursued for that. So I'm really looking forward to that. And I think we could get off the ground running more quickly if we had a little bit more base information for us to appreciate what we would actually want at that location. And that's just kind of a recap of what types of homes do we want there, what size families do we expect to be moving there. And I think having that information up front before we request the RFP would be beneficial. And last, if there could be a clarification of RFP or RFQ, both terms are used interchangeably, but I think there are some slight nuances.
I just have a comment. I was on the previous council when we kind of started the Overton project. And I think this started about 2 years ago, and we were hoping then that it would have been started by now. And so were a lot of people in the community who were hoping that they would have a place to go. And unfortunately, we are still spinning the same wheel, talking the same stuff, and talking about, no, we don't want to move. We want to wait and do this. I don't agree. I just do not agree. We don't do all this for anything else in this community. I don't know why we feel it needs to take 4 years of research and more surveys and more talking and getting more stuff. People talked about the contamination, and the city manager has answered that over and over again, saying that nothing would be built without the cleanup process happening. When it comes to what we're looking at, we already know what we're looking for. We're trying to fill the need for the missing middle. Teachers can't live here. Police officers can't live here because there's no place that is affordable. South Haven is turning into the have and the have-nots. So are we going to keep sitting around saying, oh, well, we're going to wait? No. What are we waiting for? There's nothing more to wait for. We know what we want. We said this 2 years ago. We need housing, and we need housing today, not 5 years from now. We need housing, and I think that we need to stop kicking a can, and we need to start moving forward. That's just my take.
Wendy or Jeff, comments?
I have some, but, okay. Just to kind of dovetail on that, one of the things we hear from the public a lot is about the brownfield contamination, and as Letitia just said, obviously, nothing will happen until that is mitigated. That we can't do anything. It's the law that has to be mitigated. Now, whether they do it in parts or in a section at a time or all at once, they will do what is safe to the public. They have to do what's safe for the public. So I don't have that as a stumbling block anymore, and I like that Kate's already been proactive, and we have this meeting planned with Eagle. So I feel real comfortable moving forward when it comes to brownfield. I did have a lot of the same kind of issues that Mr. Campbell, or thoughts that Mr. Campbell had. And I do remember, as Mary said, that there was options, but as I read through the memo from Mr. Kilpatrick, I thought the options were in there. For example, when he, and based on what Letitia said, and I agree, moving quick, oh darn it, I just had it. He said, you could reach out to nonprofits, and they could certainly help you, but that would take 18 to 24 months. And as Letitia just said, we've already been stretching this out. So then he also said that, well, then you could work with a for-profit developer, and then you could work with legal deed restrictions. So I felt like Kilpatrick did give us those kind of options. One of the things that Mr. Campbell mentioned, and we definitely will do this, is getting the public involved. And we will. And I think it's interesting because when we started Overton the very first time, the very first presentation that Ryan gave us, it looked like a little subdivision, and it was going to have 80 units. We got the public involved. They had the meeting at the ILC, and it was from there that it grew to be a 3-story apartment with 155 units, because the public said, we need these apartments, and we need stuff for seniors. And that's how it got there the first time. So it sounds like you don't want to go that far. Okay, but we were listening to the public the first time, and we will continue to listen to the public as we move forward. Mary asked a lot of great questions, and I think I'm not going to speak for Letitia, but I think the message I got from her, and I'm going to second it too, is if we could tailor those questions into some directives for the staff, that'd be great, because I would like to see us pass something tonight on this to get moving forward. And then housing types, Mr. Campbell brought that up, and Mary did too. And yep, I don't know yet, but we'd have to ask the public. But I'd like to get going so that we can get some progress on this. Those are my comments on that one. Over to
Wendy, your comments?
yeah, I feel like everyone has covered a lot of the main points, so I won't reiterate most of them, but I did like reading through and seeing the points that Ryan hit, including the range of the housing costs, the income levels that would likely be attracted to those homes and able to afford them, the different options between nonprofit and for-profit. And on that note, I wasn't involved in the first process, so I don't know if it's possible to keep it kind of open to see what comes out of it. Because I do believe we had some nonprofits apply, but then also for-profit. So I kind of like getting that diverse range of options for us. And I just agree, like, we do need housing quite badly. I feel like as long as there is the public input, Eagle coming in is a great idea. I think we can get moving, but then still get a lot of these concerns addressed and get the public involved in as we move forward.
Okay, I'd like to give my comments, which are somewhat similar, but maybe a little bit more. I've talked to a whole lot of residents in this town, and this is what I'm hearing, and this is what I happen to also agree to. I don't have all the answers to Mary's questions or other questions that are going to come up, but I do have my little list that I think that we should check off that we need to do. First, the type of homes. I do think we need both apartments for young people, for seniors. We also need home ownership. That's the only way that's the best way people in this country develop equity. And some groups have less equity than others, and we all know that. And to give the people of color in our community a chance to own a home is extremely important. So we need both home ownership and apartments. Secondly, we got to look at land trust. It is one of the great ways that we can get somebody into a home at a reasonable price. And a land trust simply says when you buy that home, let's say Overton, we have some duplexes, that generally a nonprofit, and there's a good one in Grand Rapids, we talked about this the first time for those of you who weren't on city council, and they will literally buy the land and you pay for the home sitting on the land, and the home is yours. And when you go to sell it, you sell it at the rate of inflation. So a $200,000 home 1 year doesn't become $400 3 years later. It becomes at 8%, $200,000. My math is right. That's $24,000. That's $224,000. So you get some control so people can get in, have a home, but not 2 or 3 years later, the next family gets priced out of it. Price points, and we talk about, everyone seems to agree, we need to move forward fast. I think one of the things Ryan said, and you were almost there, Jeff, maybe I didn't quite hear it, but he talked about workforce, but he also, workforce pricing, but he said you need a mix of some marketplace homes too. Now maybe that can happen in Overton, even though it's smaller, but if we could do both, they said that the money from the state and things will move a whole lot faster, or the developer, if you can have both. So I'd like to see that. Density is one of the issues that residents really were against. I think it's been brought up here by several of you. I agree. I think it came down to, Kate corrected me today, I thought it was 140, it was 138, the last number. Habitat said that's still too many. People didn't want a 3-story apartment, let's make it 2-story. Let's put duplexes in there and let's leave a little more green space. What we can't do, and I'm sorry if you want to have it, we can't have a big clubhouse, swimming pool, and that type of thing. That drives prices up, but we can have less density. Contamination, we've all talked about it. Let's just move forward. Let's get Eagle, and let's do it. I know Bishop Wilkins took the time, and a couple other people, I think Wendy, looked at other properties in other towns, and they've had the same, I can't say the same, I'm not an expert, but they've had contamination, and they've worked through it, and they've fixed it, so I think we should do it. Another issue we have to talk about down the road is the price that the city is willing to sell the land to a developer for, because if they get it at a good price, we will demand it in negotiations that they build the homes for a better price too. We have to get something for giving something. And I think that hits all the points that I'm, at least the biggest ones I'm concerned about. And in closing, I couldn't agree with Letitia more. Jeff, I think we all touch it. We got to move fast. We cannot let this thing go years. The one thing I do remember that I completely disagree with Habitat, the last day when he turned us down, I talked to him. He said, well, the city council wasn't together, nor was the community. The community had concerns, but the city council was in lockstep. And I remember that we all agreed what we wanted to get done. It just fell apart because the residents didn't get what they wanted. So now we have to make sure we have both sides together. But we do, to Letitia's point, we need to move forward. Every day, a young family or a police officer or a fireman can't live in this town, have to live outside of town because they can't get a reasonable priced home. It should pain all of us in this town, especially city council, so we got to move forward. That's my comments. So, with all that said, do we want to? Pardon me?
If I
Oh, you have
may,
I'm sorry.
yeah, your comments. So, I mean, Habitat's rejection letter was a conditional no-go on environmental because we did not have the environmental information. And their proposal was not providing housing for our workforce housing. It was low-income housing. I presented as a resident at that time about how teachers and SHAYs and police made too much to live in the rental housing that Habitat was proposing. So I don't want it to be city council or residents. It appears that there was a disconnect. And even previous Mayor Scott Smith, after Habitat withdrew, said he doesn't know where they lost focus of finding workforce housing, and it turned to low-income housing. I encourage us that we stay focused on the workforce housing in the 80 to 120% AMI, because that is what appears to be missing the most in this community. And I look forward to finally getting some housing for that group of families to bring them back here.
And Mary, just for what it's worth, I agree. We have to have workforce pricing this time, and maybe a mix of marketplace
Well,
pricing.
exactly, and that's where, yeah.
I guess
we
my
need to-
biggest point was about Habitat. I was very disappointed when he tried to say the city council wasn't working together to get it done. But I think we could have done some things different, like the pricing of the homes, and we're going to do it right this time. Okay. We've talked about it. Should we take a vote?
Yeah, there should be a motion, kind of encapsulating what you've all talked about here tonight. I think one thing we kind of put in the staff report is that if the memo kind of hits the high points of where council is looking to go, then we'll need a motion to direct staff to prepare a request for proposals / request for qualifications to solicit potential development partners for the Overton site and bring that back to city council for approval.
Okay. And did you get enough information tonight to know how to start going forward?
I believe so, because I think that what I'm hearing is a lot that's been reflected in the memorandum.
It is.
So we would use that as a template. And then, of course, when we bring that back, making sure that that corresponds with what council is looking to do. So this is kind of like a fail-safe to make sure that we've got it right before it gets published, and folks are relying on what we've published. So we just want to make sure that when we bring this back, that this makes, sense. Otherwise, we can amend that and modify that however council needs.
Okay.
I would move to direct city staff to prepare an RFP or RFQ, and please clarify which you're going to use and why, to get qualifications to solicit potential development partners for the Overton site.
Mhm. A request for proposal really is where you're asking for specific proposals, whereas a request for qualifications, you're looking for anybody who's maybe done this kind of work before or who can meet well, the needs that we're going to have listed in there. So either way, you're kind of getting where you're going. One is a bit more specific.
Okay. So I'll make that motion.
You need a second?
Yeah.
Second.
Okay. Those in favor? Yes?
I would amend, I just, or discussion, actually. So that motion didn't include the specific request for target price points, housing types, preferred ratios. So is that for the staff to come back with all of that information for us?
Based on who responds, I would think.
Well, no, so, and that's my concern, is the previous RFP was fairly general, and it didn't have the maximum number of units. It didn't have the types of homes that we would be looking for. It didn't have limitations on height that we would want. And possibly we could do a range of those so that people don't feel, or builders would feel able to have some flexibility. But this is where we would get the input from the residents from our discussions of the draft RFPs that are brought forward. But
So let me address that. So tonight, did the residents get an idea from us what we're looking for? And I think so. Now, specifically, let's take the price points. Yes, we didn't hit the exact price points, but we talked about workforce. I think if Kate and Griffin, the city staff, got enough information of the direction we want to go, then the next time they can present that to us, the public will get to see it again, and we can boil it down real quick, get the funnel down, and start getting real specific. Because I know that was one of your points, those price points. And I now agree that I didn't back then. So, but I think we can get to that and get to it quickly. I just don't want to throw more questions at the staff. I want them to come back, do their job, put this together, and come back to us.
well, so my question was, without that detail, is the discussion tonight sufficient for you to start working on the RFP, or did you want that detail in the motion?
Well, I think, thank you for that question. I think that one thing that I've heard tonight is a lot of discussion about what we saw in the memo. I mean, we're talking about the number of units, we're talking about the type of homes that we're talking about rental and home ownership product, which I've already heard. We're also talking about the missing middle, so that kind of income bracket. And we also talked about possibly for-profit or nonprofit developers. So I think that a lot of those things have been talked about, and that was in the summary memo. So those are things that we can start to work on and see what that looks like, because ultimately we'll bring that back if that kind of comports with council's kind of vision for that. Moreover, also you'd be casting a wide net, determining if this potential developer down the road meets what you need, or if that's something like, well, now that we've heard that, no, that's not hitting what we were looking for. So in my mind, what I have heard here tonight really comports with what I've heard in the memo, and we would use that as our template.
And the motion is then sufficient?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
I don't know, I'm assuming that everyone saw in the memo on page 131 of our packet, it does have the housing cost would be between $1,200 and $2,000 per month housing cost, even if it's not 100% of that being quote-unquote affordable. And then a couple paragraphs down it says we would need to include a mix of both small and modest-sized apartment or condo-style buildings, as well as some attached single-family or townhouse options. So I feel like that covers some of that. I don't know if you wanted a little more detail, but I feel like we can finesse a bit,
Yeah.
or kind of go into ratios we'd prefer.
Yeah, and exactly, and along those lines, there's a lot of talk about duplexes, but I can't remember who commented that the presentation material had a quadruplex, that you would never know that it was a quadruplex.
Yeah.
And that significantly cuts down on the cost, because you then have one infrastructure for the house.
Right.
Absolutely.
So So my question to city staff, especially, city council, especially Letitia, this is the council. Do you feel tonight, do you feel right now what we're telling staff, that we're starting to move the ball a little faster? We moving forward? Not a lot of rhetoric, but we're asking them to put something together and move it quickly to do it.
Absolutely.
Because I know you would say not if you didn't feel so. Okay, so I'm ready to pass a motion.
We got the
No,
motion.
we
and a
have the
second.
motion.
Yep.
Passed, it's
We-
done.
We
Was
need to
there a
vote.
second? I think I
Okay.
seconded.
Wendy
Sorry.
seconded. Yep, we just got to vote.
Okay. Those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Yes.
Yes.
Those against? I think we're moving forward.
Okay.
Okay. The city council will be,
11A.
pardon me?
The 11A. the
Oh,
beach.
that's right, Mary, 11A. Mary, would you mind reading your statement? Because as good as I can take notes, I still don't think I hit it all.
Yes. So the city council is requested to consider asking Heather Johnson to gather information from experts of what a draft plan would include for steps to reintroduce lifeguards to South Beach and North Beach in the city of South Haven, and present that information to the city council at the second meeting in April. So, and I'm not looking for a complete plan. I think this would be the base upon which a plan would be built. I think she would identify sources of the different information and work with experts to piece things together to be a well-read recommendation of how to start the process to introduce it. And so it's just really, we hear about how busy staff is, and now they're going to be even more busy with the motion we just passed. And and Heather does have so many contacts throughout the nation that she could work with them to gather information, and then we as a city council can decide what would be the next step, either getting advice from legal counsel, instructing staff to prepare a plan based on that, and there should, I would anticipate, knowing the detail that Heather does with her work, and her willingness to get input from many people, that it would be a roadmap, for lack of a better description, of what we could do to reintroduce lifeguards. I don't know if it would be a plan per se. I mean, a complete plan, there we go. But it would at least jumpstart us to this, because as we hear, it takes time to do all of this, to get lifeguards up and running. And if we're going to be having budget discussions, this would help give us some data to appreciate costs that we might anticipate or might face.
So let me take everything you just said and boil it down to what I think I heard. I think what I heard is we want to take Heather, who's part of the community and has an expertise who can gather people and other information, put it together, and come to us with information to help guide us that we can then give the city staff to help them, not circumvent them, but help them and guide us, guide city staff to move the ball faster.
Forward.
Is that it? Move it faster and forward. Thank you.
Correct.
Is that it?
Yes.
So.
I do have some
see a
questions.
puzzled look.
I do. So Ms. Johnson has not implemented a lifeguard program before, but would be, I guess, talking to experts on how they have done that?
Correct. That's my understanding, yes.
And is this going to be a report that's coming to council? So there will be a written report that will be included in the packet?
It will be information. I don't know if it will be in the form of a report, form of an outline, pieces of information from the different experts from whom she gathered it.
Okay. And I guess just to kind of get some more information, so this is what other communities have done to implement or reintroduce or implement a lifeguard program when there hadn't been one. And this is based on talking with experts around the country. Is this going to be based on like national standards that have been talked about before, like United States Lifeguard Association?
So it will be coming from the standards of people like Rob Williams, who was identified as an expert, and I believe he is the one who created the plan that, in Carlsbad, where you spoke with an expert there gathering information. So I think it's just trying to gather information of what the current standard is for different communication processes, and identifying training schedules and the minimum training you would start out with. I know in my discussions with Greg Field that you start a program and they have to have a minimum amount of experience, and then over that course of a year, they gain the rest of the experience to have my acronyms with this are not as good as I would like. The ASLC certification for lifeguards. So, and that's the information that I would expect to be brought forward, to have an idea of where do we need to go? We have nothing. Everything that we had is from 2000. A lot has changed since then. So let's find out what is the current standard for lifeguards and what is usually used to build that lifeguard program. And then, depending on who provided what and what concerns we might have, then we would decide, do we retain the consultant to actually implement something, work with staff? I mean, this is just the groundwork to appreciate what's involved. And again, because of budget discussions coming forward, this would help us understand some of the budgetary challenges that a program would have and identify what ways might be found to fund it.
The one comment I want to make after what you just said, you said something about building, I think, a lifeguard program. To tie in with that, I'd just like to have Heather, with all of her resources and everything she can gather and all the people, make it actionable. So back to Letitia, let's move forward, let's not keep talking. So put it together in a manner that we as council and can give it to staff.
I guess I would.
To help put it together. I'm not telling you how to do it, but at least give you information that looks like a program that we can act upon, not just, we don't need another workshop.
Or options.
And options, yes.
So it's not coming with a program, this is what it has to be. It's this is what has worked in other areas.
Yeah, not just statistics.
Right.
And I'm sorry, so the information will be provided to council, will it be shared with staff? Because we'll have to incorporate that into the agenda packet. Also have time for city staff to also kind of chew on it a little bit. Because ultimately, if council is looking for actionable items, I mean, ultimately, while I appreciate that she'll be doing some research, there is maybe an intimacy of knowing the systems here, that there's going to be some tweaking if that ends up being what council wants to do. So I think that, I guess, while having, and I think you had mentioned this, that you are looking for an implementation schedule, a step-by-step, or you are not?
No, not a schedule, just steps that lead to a successful lifeguard program starting. And so again, it's Heather having access and connections with all these experts nationwide that have built programs. So she is gathering and putting together information that would be beneficial for the staff and ourselves to identify what steps would we take to build a program. And it's similar to, the Floating Home Ad Hoc Committee that came forward with recommendations that staff then used and met with legal counsel to decide what tweaks were needed. They originally had special land use and they changed it to regulatory. So it's definitely not set in stone. It's something to start the discussion, but with a lot of information in one location.
Just to clarify, so is this looking to then come out with like X number of lifeguards per beach, or is that going to be something that there's an estimate, but that would have to be later confirmed with a consultant who has implemented lifeguard programs elsewhere?
Well, if it's coming from a person who would be a consultant and has set up lifeguard programs elsewhere, I would not be surprised if there are specific numbers. But those numbers can always be pressure tested by another consultant. Again, it's just a base from which we would proceed and build upon.
We always talk about best practices. I got to believe Heather has the ability to get to people that have put programs together, and we should be able to look at that and then pick what we think, what we think is best and put it together. And I have no expectations on dates because I don't know how long it takes. Heather probably does, but I don't, so let's see what she comes back with. I think if nothing else, this is what I think we want as a community, where people in our community are coming to us and saying, whether it's Bishop Wilkins on affordable homes or Heather on lifeguards, let's take some of it from the residents and what they can provide us. And it seems like she knows so much. And I'm not saying you don't agree with it. This is not you against me by any means. But let's just use them and help us get started on this. One thing I know for certain, this is happening in many cities all around the country. I just came back taking care of my mom, and in the afternoon I went to the beach and I talked to lifeguards about liability. Now, so it's not something we're inventing, so it seems like we should be able to get the information. Hey, I don't want to talk anymore. I'm talking too much. But, so what's our next step, Kate?
Any other comments?
I did. If it's just simply asking to have Heather do some research, but we've already kind of drifted into a discussion about lifeguards and minus the mayor and George Sleeper, I'm not going to vote for this. I did prioritize the lifeguards, beach safety, including lifeguards, but lacking due process, it wasn't posted in the minutes so that, because I've gotten emails from people that are against lifeguards and they're not here to speak their piece. And then it kind of smacks of the lack of transparency that we're doing this without telling anyone. So that's kind of my sticking point with this. But yeah, absolutely, some good information sounds great that we could use that kind of thing. But done this way, I can't support it.
Yes.
I just feel like by doing this, we're not officially voting on anything. We're not using taxpayer money to do anything yet. I think we all want to follow the process, but we are on a time constraint here, and this is something that I feel has been really important to the community. I can't even count the number of emails that I've gotten on the subject of bringing lifeguards back, and I think we keep asking up here, what is our first step? What do we do? How do we do it? And by agreeing to this tonight or voting on it, that gives us our first step that we can hit the ground running once we've got our priorities voted on, once we've got our budget ready. And we're talking about Overton right now too, and that's a priority for the next coming year that we haven't voted on. So I think that, of course, I would love for it to be on the agenda, but we don't have a system yet for council people to get it on the agenda. So this is, for me, a means to an end, and I'm happy that we're talking about it.
So we have a motion.
Does she have any comments? But
Oh, me? Well, I agree with Wendy. This is not costing us anything. We're not creating a position. We're not spending any money. We're just asking for information. I don't see anything about not being transparent about gathering information. So I think this is just a step of moving forward. We don't always have to take 50 years to just do something. Let's just move forward.
And if I could, just with regard to due process, so the information would be brought back at a future meeting, which would be noticed, and anyone could come out and comment.
and the people that are opposed could have spoken tonight had they known and not been sprung.
But they can do the
And
same
they,
thing.
and they will. I'm sure they will.
And they can.
But I've just heard so many times about being transparent from people sitting next to me now, before they sat here.
I understand.
So I'm very weary of being transparent.
Yes.
Fair enough.
But we're not voting on anything. It's just information. So when it comes to the next meeting, they can come and say, we don't like the information, and we can listen.
Sure, absolutely. I prioritized it, so.
I did too. Let's go. Go, Tim.
Is there a motion on the floor? Because I'm not sure if we've recorded one.
Oh, we need a motion.
So I would move the city council to request to consider Heather Johnson gathering information from experts of what a draft plan would include for steps to reintroduce lifeguards to South Beach and North Beach in the city of South Haven, and to direct the city manager to include an agenda item on the second city council meeting in April to discuss the information Heather has gathered.
I'll second.
Okay. Take a vote. Yays? Yes?
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes? Noes?
No.
It passes. Oh, I'm sorry.
Yep, that's okay.
Go ahead.
It still passes.
Thank
Yep.
you. Okay. Okay, the next on the agenda,
12. Item 12.
pardon me.
Item 12, yep.
Yeah.
You're on it. Yep.
The city council will be asked to receive an update from Director of Public Works, Dana Bird.
Yeah, thanks for having me here tonight to give a monthly update to you all on Public Works happenings. A lot of what we do at Public Works is seasonal, and we've had a lot of trouble figuring out what season it is with the weather lately. So we started preparing for summer, and then winter came back today. So you may have seen us street sweeping one day and then salting this morning. So appreciate our crews out there adjusting their plans day to day to meet the needs of the weather and the community there. We did work on taking down the ice rink with the DDA. We also have some leveling bids for the beaches and the beach sand. And we have Brad Thomas Excavating who's going to be doing our leveling this year. Not the same contractor as last year, but he has done it several years before that. We're also just issued a press release about some sand removal on the blue stairs that's in the works. Staff is working through a lot of infrastructure things right now. As you know, the city owns tons of infrastructure, and with a lot of infrastructure comes a lot of reporting about your infrastructure. And so we're working through a lot of our annual reports to state, federal agencies like MDOT, Eagle, a lot of ongoing grant and loan management, and a lot of computer passwords in our lives these days. So staff also, I wanted to give a shout out to our water, sewer, and street staff today. We had a sewer blockage that a citizen called in, and they responded immediately, worked to identify the blockage and get that cleared away. So I want to thank them for their quick response on that, and also thank the citizen for notifying us of the issue. So capital projects, I included a list of capital projects in the packet. I'm happy to answer any questions about that. I did expand it because I believe last month you asked about Huron Street. And I wanted to give a little more information about the Huron Street resurfacing project. So that is a project planned for 2025. So it's a future project, but we had applied several months ago and received grant funding from MDOT to fund a portion of that project. And that'll be a resurfacing from Broadway west to Kalamazoo. We also have a project out for bid right now, a street project for Willow Street that we're hoping to receive bids for in the near future. Other ongoing capital works that we have, we're replacing lead lines throughout the community. So there's a lot of holes being cut in the streets at the moment, which you may have seen as you go around town. And we're also working on when we patch those holes. So that's all in the works, but a lot of the work is sequential, and so we have to cut the holes, verify what we need, and then we come back and patch later. So appreciate everybody's patience there. So happy to answer any questions you have, and looking forward to the CIP presentation next week.
I just have one question.
Yeah.
Do you know when the fences on the beaches will be removed yet?
The snow fences, I think we looked at starting to do that earlier, but I think, I don't know. Quentin, do you know?
Typically, it's mid-April.
Mid-April.
Sooner we can get them out, the better. The faster we get leveling done,
Yeah, so I think the leveling is planned, in the next several weeks, so, yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I have a question also on the beach. So you're talking about leveling, and what about, so I'm guessing it's not your department with regard to the drop-off that's been caused on South Beach from the dredging? Or,
Yeah, I'm not familiar with that issue, but I can look into it and get back with you.
because I think it's further in the water. It's not like the beach, but that would be very helpful. And do you have any idea how much more sand is going to be added from the Blue Stair change of the
Cleaning out
removal?
along the edges of
Yes.
it? We haven't estimated the cubic yards, but we're gonna just pull back the sand away from the railing areas, so it's not I would say it's not a significant amount of sand. It'll just be kind of spread and leveled,
Okay,
so.
Near the-
Maybe a couple dozen cubic yards or something.
okay. Thank you.
Yep. Any other questions?
Thank you for what you're doing for the city.
All right.
Appreciate it.
Thanks.
Okay, time for the city manager's comments.
Public comments.
Time for public comment.
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. Time for the public comments. Will be asked to, let's see, public comments. Citizens in the audience will be heard on items not on the agenda.
Joe Wilkins, 811 Indiana Street. The council, I want to warn the council that we don't fall back into things that we complained about when it comes to transparency. I just felt like, my own personal opinion tonight, I felt like there was a little lack of transparency. I know we had about 3 or 4 that said it wasn't, but yeah, it was a lack of transparency in some ways. I am totally in support of what was done tonight, but I am true to what I believe. We argued that point before, a lack of transparency, and I felt like there was a lack of transparency tonight. I use also that Councilperson Mary talked about, we want to get this person out there. It's the best practice. Look at the best practices. This is what bothers me. I heard the passion to get somebody out there. We're not reinventing anything. We're going to take one person, and that person's going to talk to all these different people, and we're going to use that as the gospel, so to speak. But when I stood here, several meetings, time after time, suggesting that we utilize that same concept, that same level of transparency to pick the minds of those our residents that have the knowledge and the willingness to be a part of an ad hoc committee to help bring back the right things that we need and answer some questions when it comes to affordable housing. Nobody has acted that quick on this council. That's the lack of transparency that I see and have a problem with. Not a council person jumped on that quick, picked a person out of the community that has the ability to do the research. I'm not saying I'm against it. The same practice that we use tonight, we can use that same practice to try to get Kate the right information when it comes to affordable housing. And not one person on the council have suggested this person is willing to help in the community as a part of the ad hoc committee, that person is willing. I just don't see fairness all the way across the board when we deal with certain issues. That is a lack of transparency that I'm talking about. And we have to think outside the box. We have to think outside the box. Kilpatrick said before, most of these projects that we see that went up, Ben Harbor, Kalamazoo, was done because MISTA had a grant that is not in the budget in the state of Michigan this year so far. And most of them, Grand Rapids, they utilized that grant. And if we can't get that grant, it's almost impossible to get it done. The only way we could probably get it done is we own the land, we can give it away. But we have to think outside the box. What do you mean by that, Bishop Wilkins? We might have to consider market rate in Kalamazoo. They have market rate, they have workforce rate, they have so many houses, units that are market rate, so many units that are workforce, and then they have a couple that are low income because it makes them more competitive when it comes to trying to get help. So we have to think out, we might have to think outside the box because we might not be able to get that one grant. So I just wanted to throw that out there. And the time the beach, I think the beach opens up on May 15th or something like that, right? Just like there is old military term dereliction of duty when it comes to providing it, it could be a dereliction of duty when it comes to not doing the right things
1 minute.
before we roll out something. So I just think it should be a level of transparency both ways, and in all different, the top five, because what I saw tonight, and totally, I'm not against that, because I'm all about saving lives. I'm not against it. I'm against the process that I saw tonight and the process that I had a problem with before, because we just took a priority five, and we move quicker on a priority 5 than we have on 1 or 2. We at least put somebody to work. We put this young lady that has the knowledge, we put her to work, and that's the way it should work. But we took a priority 5, and we got further tonight on a priority 5 than we have 1 and 2 over the last 4 years.
My physical therapist told me, don't walk like Frankenstein. You know, I have 2 feet that are hurt, so I'm trying to, sorry that I'm slow getting up here. But I will not, my name is Gail Patterson Gladney, Van Buren County Commissioner for District 1. I won't go over some of the items that I was going to because it's late. And the items I was going to discuss were questions from the mayor. So I will share that another time. I will do the time-sensitive items. From the county, we're having the Van Buren County Veterans Services Benefits and Services event, March 27th, from 9 to 11. It's at the Covert Township Hall. The last one that I helped to bring to the residents was at the Senior Services in South Haven. So this one, anyone in the whole area, any veterans that you know, they can come out to this event, and I have flyers. And I'm not sure if I gave you these before, but.
I'm not sure, but I did get your mental health stuff and shared that with council.
Okay, yes. One of the questions that the Mayor Brown had was about mental health, and so some information is already going to be going out to you. The Van Buren County Veterans Social, they're having another social March 28th, and that's from 6 to 8. And that is at the Veterans Service Building at 226 East Michigan Avenue. It's very important to have our veterans be able to connect with each other, and this is a way that they can do it. I wanted to mention the Dark Skies Week, April 2nd through the 8th for this year. I'm not sure if you know about the International Dark Sky Project, but you can go on darkskies.org/news, and International Dark Sky Week, which I said April 2nd through the 8th, is held every year in April during the Global Astronomy Month, and is held when the night skies are darkest, and this year is during the week, April 2nd through the 8th. It coincides with the solar eclipse of 2024. The Dark Skies Project is to help with light pollution, so I will let you look more into this. I wasn't able to get all the information from Maureen Lewandowski, who championed this from South Haven Township this year, but next year I should be able to get more information. And then the last item is about the Children's Advocacy Center. You know, we have one in the county now, and they were originally working with Allegan, and they continue to work with Allegan Safe Harbor Children's Advocacy Center. There's going to be a yearly fundraiser, and this one's going to be April 19th. So I wanted to bring that to you. I think most of you know that the Safe Harbor Children's Advocacy Center is a nonprofit organization providing hope and healing for children who are victims of abuse and neglect, and it's in Allegan, Berry, and Van Buren counties. I will give this information to your city manager so that you can get ready to go home, and everyone else too. But thank you for your time and attention. Do you have any questions? No. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Gail.
I'd like to address transparency in regards to what's happened tonight, because Bishop Wilkins made some points. I don't think things are equal. We have had consultants come in to speak on Overton. Ryan Kilpatrick's been here several times. We've gotten nowhere with life-saving as far as getting consultants to come in and start the process going. And that's what we're trying to start tonight. Information is not lack of transparency. I don't care what side of the issue you're on. The more information you have, the better decisions you can make. And I'm close with people whose children have died on our beaches. And this issue is of, I don't care if it's 5, if it's 2, if it's 1, if it's your heart that's broken because you no longer have that person in your life, and it happened on our beaches, it's a priority. And all we're trying to do at this point, we have come together because of that heartbreak and gotten people together and formed a contingency that is willing for free to take this on. We're not asking for money like most consultants do, for mission statements, for housing, for this, for that. We are doing this for free. And we just want to get things going so that everyone can start making intelligent decisions regarding protecting people's lives on our beaches. That's it. That's called transparency. Thank you.
Hello, Lisa Croupiers, 561 Indiana. I'm just going to dovetail a little bit on this. I was going to send Bishop Joe a message and of support, and I thought, oh, I'm here. I can just get up here and say it. I think the difference here is in listening, because I also was not an advocate for lifeguards. However, throughout this process, I've seen the benefit they could have by just being on the beach and getting a message to emergency services much more quickly. So I'm willing to consider this. My mind has been open, but I think the big difference here, the fact that it got brought to City Council, that's another issue altogether. But Heather, I don't know Heather, but I've been hearing her name. She's done a lot of this research on her own, and she has made herself into a resource that is invaluable for this type of thing. Also, Bishop Joe Wilkins, his presence getting up here all the time has made him someone who understands the need. We know he is in touch with this issue. When he talked about an ad hoc committee, I think what we're learning from tonight is that we just need to start an ad hoc committee. And we need to go, because after that Kalamazoo, where people went to Kalamazoo and observed that, the attainable housing community, I felt very compelled to get in touch with the individuals and say, next time you do this, I want to go too. Because this is very, very important to me. I think that the information gathering is going about a little differently, but we are all much further informed on this issue than we were a couple years ago. We're going into it with much more information. We're much, much better equipped to deal with this. And the questions that the city manager was asking tonight, or that you were asking, do you have the information you need, density and all the specifics? I do believe that whatever comes out in the future will then, the developers, then it will be able to be tweaked. But we have to go, I mean, I was very impressed with the way that, where we're at with that. So I think we're really moving forward on this, but I think a lot of it has been due to Bishop Joe Wilkins and other people in the community who have spoken up consistently and persistently and just not let this thing go. That we are, again, into the season and all of our workers need a place to live, and we are in a bad spot. And not to mention the people that work here and cannot afford housing. So kudos to Bishop Joe Wilkins. He keeps this issue front and center for us all the time, and we are much better informed because of the work that he has done on behalf of this. So, thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments?
Hi, Mary Lynn Boogie, 70 Gabriel Drive. Just a quick one, building on what Gail said. The Dark Skies Initiative actually was the very first thing I ever spoke to this council about when I first moved here, and that's a long time ago. Anyway, and I hope you'll keep that in mind because it's really an attraction. If you can see the stars, it would build on another natural thing that we have that can attract people to the city. And right now what we're getting is a lot of LED packs going on walls in residential areas, shining in rooms, putting glare out all over the place. So I know we have an ordinance. I'm not sure how much it applies to residential housing, but it needs to, so that it keeps the light going down on the ground. As a matter of fact, the lights that you see on Phoenix that are the proper night sky lights, that's one of the things that came about from the first time I spoke, because until then, we didn't have any. Now we have some, and they actually provide better light because you can see the cars that are parked rather than lighting up the sky, the lights going down where you need it on the pedestrians in the street. So it's really very important. It's very important that every site plan that comes through here is evaluated for that, because it is in the ordinance on any commercial development. So I encourage you, because it really enhances when you have your dark skies and can relate to the stars and nature and creation. Thank you.
Thank you. Hi, Todd Heinrich, 357 Moore Court. A lot of interconnected issues here tonight, if you're paying attention. Housing, what Elaine brought up about how many hundreds of short-term rentals we have here. I'm optimistic. I'm optimistic by your enthusiasm here tonight, and you act like a group of people that are really going to get things done. So I'm really optimistic. I want to acknowledge you have many balls in the air. One big ball that you put in the air on February 19th was a 6-month moratorium on new business, neighborhood business, short-term rental permits. I hope and pray that South Haven's 20-year trend of population loss and the community and economic losses that follow population loss has been stopped and will soon be reversed. Almost 1 month has passed since the STR moratorium. The moratorium, as I understand it, requires your action. Please act at your next meeting. Actions reducing short-term rentals are happening in hundreds of municipalities around our country and the world. Last year, the board of Park Township, population 30,000, voted unanimously to remove all short-term rentals from their community. Hundreds of STRs from their community. They're going to have to fight, but their attorney says that they have a really good case, and they're just going to go away. New York City recently took action to cut the number of short-term rentals in their city in half. And when they did that, they only have 1/4 as many as they had 2 years ago. The industry basically started to collapse. And that helps the city. It moves people back into the city, less commuters. It's just good. It's good economic policy. Losing residents is pretty much always bad. Please be optimistic. Please be courageous. Michigan law and the winds of change are with you. Please act quickly to reduce the number and density of neighborhood business short-term rentals. A couple of weeks ago, I was here and I talked to you about costs, invisible costs of short-term rentals. Population loss is obviously the worst one. But last Thursday, Susan and I appealed the assessor's suggestion to increase our SEV, our state equalized value of our home. The assessor said our SEV should be increased by 22%. We redid the house in 2019, and it was assessed then, and it's been reassessed at 22%. We appealed the assessment because the increase was in part based on comparing our home with short-term rentals. Short-term rentals, I learned from the assessing board, automatically get assessed at $50,000 more than a occupied home. And most of the board seemed to agree with me that it didn't seem appropriate to compare a business with the residents. We provided them with legal decisions from the Circuit Court, a Michigan Court of Appeals, and the Supreme Court that says that short-term rentals are businesses. The Supreme Court compared them to hotels. Now, some people have used that kind of sarcastically, but that's what the Supreme Court of Michigan says that they should be compared to. The city assessor, I challenged her, and we kind of went back and forth, and she said, this is, we're not going to do that, what you're asking. And so I'm not optimistic that they said that we'd have a decision in June. But when we do, I think we're going to probably talk with our neighbors who also have had significant assessments.
1 minute.
And we probably challenge it if we lose. Because it's, again, one of those hidden costs that when you start pulling foundation stones out of a structure like a zoning ordinance, things start to fall apart. Things start to fall apart up, and we've spent years here learning about these costs. There's a reason that nobody else up and down the shoreline has allowed 1 in 4, 1 in 5 homes to be short-term rentals. The average up and down the coast, according to Planning Commissioner Mike Neese, is 1 in 180 in the municipalities up and down the coast. That's all.
Thank you, Todd.
Dan Agnello, 964 Everett Parkway. I agree with what Todd said, but again, you got to cover the loophole. You can limit all business STRs you want, but you got to remember, we still did not address personal STRs. So your moratorium is not stopping anything. I just addressed that. Like I told you, House on Clinton. Oh, we know we can't get a business STR, but we'll get a personal one. So the numbers are going to go up. The people, the 27 people that didn't get in a lottery, plus, that didn't get the business STRs that are allocated, plus the ones that didn't get in a lottery, they're going to get personal STRs. So you haven't solved anything. You've got to act. Like Todd said, you have to act. It's not going to do us any good, okay? We need action. And like I said, this has been going on for three and a half cycles for the January renewals. And I said it every time I've been to a meeting for 3 years, you're going to miss another cycle. Guess what? We missed another cycle. I don't know what the pressure is. There's got to be some pressure from somewhere for this not getting done, or maybe I'm naive, or maybe you're naive, but it's not getting done. And I think somebody is putting pressure on the city, threatening to sue them. And there's a couple of people in this town that I'm pretty sure are running this town. I've only been here 4 years. And it doesn't seem like the citizens are running this town. It seems like there's some powerful people behind the scenes that, they're somehow getting their word done, and it's getting to the city, and the residents aren't being heard. And so you got to stop the personal STRs. And I agree with Todd, the STR thing affects the price of housing. It does. You can just see what he had said. So we've got to stop this thing. We've got to reduce it. You probably, I don't know if you saw the news thing, but Bloomingdale Township, population of about 3,400 people. They just passed the ordinance. Guess what the cap is on STRs in Bloomingdale? They have a lot of lakes. There's a lot of inland lakes. We just went to the bulk food place there. There's all kinds of lakes, tourists and everything. 5 STRs, okay, in a tourist area. We have 3,900, we have 800. They have 5 with 3,500. So just think about it. Thank you.
Any other comments? Okay. Then we'll close the comments. Kate, you have any comments as city manager?
I do. Last Friday was the end of the overnight parking and was the startup of our golf cart season, as that's been extended to now March 15th to November 15th. So as of last Friday, golf carts are back on the street, hopefully not today with all the snow. I did want to mention that last Friday, Mayor Brown, Griffin Graham, and I attended a ribbon cutting with W.R. Grace, celebrating their conclusion of their over $30 million expansion project that's going to increase the capacity at that plant to manufacture fine chemical components up to 25%. We had a chance to meet with their leadership team from Bethesda, which was their headquarters, and also talked with their contractor on site, who was just very pleased and impressed with the city staff, with facilitating permitting, facilitating site plan review, because I know that they had to come to the Planning Commission, also working out any kind of ombudsmanship or things that we can help, if there was an issue with the utility transfer or whatnot. So I wanted to share that with council because that was a really important project that W.R. Grace kicked off shortly after purchasing that site. So this has been a 21-month project. Of course, they've only been there for a very short time, so less than 2 years or less. But I wanted to share that because it was a very big deal for them to kind of pull all their employees together and have the leadership team there. I did forward out the press release that was issued after that, and that they were very happy to celebrate this expansion, celebrate their safety record, because they were still operating the plant full-time while this expansion was going on. So they were very, very happy. And I did want to call out and thank Griffin Graham specifically, but a lot of city staff members for helping get that done. I know there's been a lot of talk about economic development, and I got to tell you that we have had a number of really large expansions that have been coming through the city with W.R. Grace, with Revere, with Spencer Manufacturing. And these are things that are adding jobs over time, but they're also adding prominence to the manufacturing community that is here. It is not as maybe well-known or as talked about as much as some of our tourism-related issues, but it is a sector that is growing in the city. It is not flashy, and it doesn't always come up, but it is something that is steadily marching. And I do want to kind of, talk about the staff and give the kudos to Griffin and a lot of the staff members that have assisted with that. So those are my comments tonight. And again, kudos to Griffin Graham and seeing that forward. He was very instrumental. Those are my comments.
Thank you. We'll start that side of the room and start with Mary. Council comments?
Thank you. So one note with regard to night skies, I know I was contacted by a resident a few months ago about lights on public park buildings and them not being very night sky friendly. And so as lights are getting replaced, it would be nice to be able to contribute towards the night skies and ensure that bulbs are facing down and not causing a lot of glare going sideways and upwards. I was very pleased to see the press release, Kate, that you sent out with regard to W.R. Grace. That's great, and kudos to the staff. One thing some people may not know, we had our, they know we had our priority meeting, pre-priority meeting, and there were 3 very informative presentations. Those were not in an agenda packet at the time of the meeting, but thank you, Kate, for getting those uploaded to the website, and people can find them under the agenda packet folder on our documents for the date of March 4th. One of those items was the recreation millage that the city council will be asked to put on the ballot. And at that meeting, I had requested some information to help better appreciate exactly where that money was going. It's not well understood, I don't think, that when there's a millage, some of it is diverted to the Downtown Development Authority, the Brownfield Redevelopment Authority, and the local Downtown Finance Authority by state statute. And if you look at the language from the millage for the narcotics, the DDA actually did not take their percentage, which I think was about 12% for 3 years. And so when the proposed rec millage does come up, I would like to have, as part of that presentation, clarification of how much would be diverted to the DDA, BRA, and LDFA, and whether any of the 3 have the ability to opt out from taking that percentage. I was also looking at the numbers, and, the township is paying a $250,000 right now, and I very much appreciate the township's willingness to consider increasing their millage to $500,000, similar to what's being requested of us. But in looking at the presentation material, $500,000 from the city is proposed to produce $272,000 annually. The $250,000 from the township is producing $47,800. If they double that, it bumps it up to over $9,500. But still, there's a significant difference between how much the property owners from the city would be paying. So in any presentation, I would like to see how that can be addressed so that the burden on our taxpayers is commensurate with the burden on the township taxpayers, and a better clarification exactly how it will be distributed and clarified how it will be spent. I think that would go a long way. For housing, I've heard much request about accessory dwelling units, ADUs, and I do see a benefit of them providing housing for seasonal housing especially. And I would like to better understand any hurdles that staff may have in enforcing ADUs being used for seasonal versus STRs versus long-term rentals, because I keep hearing of the benefits of ADUs for seasonal and long-term, and I would really like to support that going forward, as long as we don't cause additional burden on the staff for enforcement. Speaking of trying to get things on the agenda, so I know that we had a little hiccup with the Excellence Committee, and I know Councilman Sleeper is, it's not here tonight, but I was wondering when we might have our first meeting for that. I would like to thank Al Vandenberg for his assistance with the priority setting meeting, and looking forward to getting his report. And just a couple PSAs. So the Van Buren Conservation District has their 2024 tree sale, and you can find information on that from the Bailey Hyde Museum. The Scott Club is having a presentation tomorrow at 1 p.m. by Dr. Lisa Cox on Strong Kinship, Covert, Michigan's extraordinary story of hope and faith. And AAUW has at the South Haven Public Library Community Center, the Silverbag Ladies Readers Theater production celebrating remarkable Michigan women on March 20th at 2 p.m.
Any comments?
No comment.
Jeff?
Please, thank you. My comment, Kate was giving some kudos to her staff and Griffin specifically, and that's kind of where my comment is headed. Tonight, someone mentioned that the staff seemed overwhelmed with projects, and I've never seen that out of them, and I've never heard that out of them. I think that they do a great job. Are they busy? Absolutely, but I think they do a great job at what they do. Another comment was something about almost calling them unprofessional. If you have a question and you don't like the answer, that doesn't make them unprofessional when you send these emails. But then for Kate specifically, it was said that she's not respectful or, sometimes cuts people off, confused with facts. I really have a problem with that. I've never known her to be confused with facts. I've not seen her cut people off. And respectful, I was out at the Moose Lodge one time, and it was a charity event for a family in need, and Kate was there. She knew the family and was happy to contribute, and she had her sister in town for a visit. And as you can imagine, when the city manager's out and about, people were stopping and talking to her, and sometimes they weren't being very nice to her. They were complaining about things, and she was perfectly respectful to and professional to them all the time. All the time they were interrupting her visit with her sister. So I don't really like people saying that she's disrespectful, because I have never, ever seen that. I think she does a very good job, and she's a very good professional city manager. So those are my comments.
Letitia?
I just want to say thank you to everyone who came out tonight, and I just want to encourage everyone who cares about South Haven as a community to continue to fight to make this a safe and a diverse community for everyone. Thank you.
My comments are a couple. First, I want to thank residents for coming out tonight, the people that are watching tonight. I especially want to thank Heather and her whole group for taking time to put together ideas and to volunteer going forward to give us more information. I really want to thank the people up here on City Council. I don't think we thank each other enough. I was telling Kate today, this is a hard job. You don't see half the time and effort and the thought we put into it. Even when we're not up here, it's on our mind. We're talking to people. So I think we're really trying, which brings me to the big point. I'm frustrated at times that we're not moving fast enough. But this new city council's only been in effect for less than 3 months now, and I think we're starting to make things happen. And even though I'm new at stepping in as mayor for one night and it was hard, and I didn't know all the procedures. I tried my best to make the people up here feel comfortable to talk and have an open dialogue, and I thought we accomplished that much. And when we do that, then all of you see what we're thinking, and then I think it works better between the residents and city council. So I'm hoping you feel that way. And I am completely optimistic that you're going to see big changes, and the short-term rentals and affordable housing being addressed very, very quickly. And I think the idea of resident-directed information, like Heather's doing, I don't know if some of you know, but there are some very, very smart people in this town that are already working on housing and looking at it, and I've talked to them, and I was just getting things rolling a little, and I've had a personal family problem, and I've had to pull away for a couple of weeks. But I do think it has to be initiated from the residents and have them come forward to us, because Ryan Kilpatrick warned me in particular after that last seminar. He said, be very careful when you have a resident group putting ideas together that you don't have them work counter to city staff and to city council. So we have to work together. And I think Heather, with the help of Mary, have coordinated that. And I think we're going to have to do the same, walk that very close tightrope with affordable housing and even short-term rentals. But Bishop Wilkins, I want you to know that you have my commitment that I will continue to talk to a lot of people and try to start up a group that can come to us with ideas on affordable housing. But I will not be the leader of that group, nor is Mary the leader that Heather is putting together. And I think we need that counterbalance, the residents with their ideas, city council with ours, and then we can go to Kate with what we think is the best. And I think that's it. And thank you for tolerating my not being as smooth and as accurate up here, but I think we got through it. Thank you. And with that, I'm closing. Oh, we have to vote to close the meeting?
Nope.
I can just close
Get to
it.
bang
Wow.
the gavel.
So the meeting is now adjourned. Thank you.
That feel.